Hi, and this is part two of the value scale grid painting and the color wheel painting. So we're going to start off with the grayscale, and if you go ahead and go to Schoology and you go to the Elements of Art folder, you will see the presentation called Color Basics. And when you launch it, come down and find this slide here, the grayscale, and we could break it up into more values, but 7 steps here, or 7 values, is kind of a good middle of the road here. So as you can see, we've got white as our highest value, black as our lowest value, and shades of gray in between. So my recommendation is that you go ahead and you size your screen here so that you can see the presentation on one side and you have ArtRage on the other. So go ahead and find a comfortable setup there, and I'm going to go ahead and have mine right about here. Okay, so I've got my ArtRage set up here as close as I can. Make sure that you are painting on the correct layer, and I've got my layer here, value scale paint, selected. The brush that I would like all of you to use is the oil paint brush. And let's go ahead and make sure that you don't have any preset settings activated or modified. So I'm going to come up here to the top right corner, choose Reset Current Tool, and I'm going to make my brush size come down to about 80% or so. Okay, so I'm going to start off with my lowest value here, so that's going to be a pure black, and that's going to be over here on the right. And it's perfectly okay if you go outside the lines a little bit. Try to be a little careful as you get to the next value over. We can always trim this and clean this up using the eraser tool, of course. I'll now go ahead and grab the white and block that in. Okay, and just remember to press Command S every once in a while and save your file. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and find my middle gray here. So if you look at the value chart here, middle gray is really going to be right about here in slot 4, in position number 4. So I'll go ahead and try to find it there. Now what we can do is you can start from one of these sides here, and you can go ahead and tint and shade them so that way you can go ahead and mix them together. So for instance, if I were to start from the black value, I would go ahead and sample my black and go ahead and paint it in. And again, adjust your size of your brush to fit. And then I would go ahead and Option, tap, and sample some of the white. And then I'm going to come in here, and while looking on the right hand side of my screen, I'm going to go ahead and brush in some, sample, brush in some more, sample, and just start to really kind of mix them together, sampling from different areas and kind of brushing it in here, and again mixing it in with some black. Once I see it, so now I'm getting a little darker because I felt it needed to be darker. Once I feel like I'm getting it, there we go. Now the color mixing is happening. Okay, so I feel like overall it's pretty darn close. Maybe I need a touch of black in here. And there we go. So that's a shade darker. So that feels about right. And again, it's all about experimentation and really just kind of finding it. Okay, so once I feel like I've got it, and it doesn't have to be exact, but we want to try to get close to it. Once I feel like I've got it there, then I can go ahead and move on to the next one. So I'll go ahead and move on to the next one. And of course, this needs to be a little lighter, so I'm going to Option Sample, and I'm going to go ahead and bring in a little bit of white to tint it. And once you go through as a pass, Again, always be looking at it next to the adjacent one. Really be evaluating where you're going to go from here. If it's not dark enough, grab a little black, put a little black in there, and go ahead and shade it some more. Okay, so that one feels pretty good. Again, I'll block in my next step up. This is now my middle gray here. And again, I need to lighten it, so grab a little bit here. And this is getting closer to my actual canvas color, so I feel pretty good about that. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I'll go ahead and save. Okay, so you get the basic idea. I'm going to go ahead and cut this video now because I think you get the basic idea. One tip that seems to work for me pretty well when mixing, I'll just give you an example here, is that if I go ahead and I throw down some black, and then I'll sample some white, I get a pretty good mixing result, at least this is how I feel, when I move my pen left and right, and then do a quick little up and down action in between. If you just come in and do a little circle, that can get you some pretty good results, so just try that, a tight little circle. I also find back and forth can lay down some nice paint. Again, it's all pressure, so be real careful. But I find that when you do a quick little gesture, that can be when you get a pretty good little swirl there, and that's when you can press Option and grab some tone from the side there, and that's when you can really start to get the fine art of mixing. For cleanup, my final point today for cleanup is if you go to the eraser tool, which is E, and you come here to look at your settings, if I just brush here, I'm going to get the standard eraser, which has kind of a soft edge, and it's not very clean, and it takes kind of a while. I would up your pressure, and so that way when you go across, it just cleans it up real quickly. And then if you want a nice crisp, clean edge, you bring the softness down to 0%. So pressure 100%, softness 0, and you'll see that you get a nice clean edge, and you can go ahead and clean that up. And that's how I do my cleanup. So with my layer selected, I'll just come in here, go ahead, brush over. You have to be kind of nice and careful. And of course, if you go too far, you'll take off too much. But try it out, see what you can come up with, and good luck to you. All right, in the next video tutorial, I'll go ahead and do the color wheel setup, and that'll be the final part. Good luck.